So some interesting news in the last 24 hours or so, although it was mentioned by Mohammed Ben Sulayem a month ago. The hours really do go shorter as the days go by, don't they? But either way, it looks like Formula 1 is going to open up the grid to at least 2 more teams. This is teams set up from the bottom up, which will bump the grid size up from 20 to 24. The last time we saw this many teams on the grid was back in the early 2010s with the introduction of the likes of Virgin, Lotus and HRT, and this in turn had been the biggest grid size, I think, since 1995. I'm not counting 1997 because, well, Lola happened. The maximum the FIA will allow to start a Grand Prix is 26 cars, so this means a maximum of 13 teams. And a 26-car grid has not been seen since the start of the 1995 season, when you had Pacific, 40, and for the first 5 races, Simtech propping up the field. Anybody wishing for more to bring back the good old days of pre-qualifying where you had 32, 35, 36 drivers fighting for 26 slots is just going to be disappointed. No sponsor is going to pay up if the team is just going to be going home by the end of Friday. The grid expansion, if they can find anyone to buy in, will basically be what that grid expansion or franchise expansion, whatever you want to call it, would have been like back in the early 2010s, as all 3 of those new teams were enticed into the sport with promises of a budget cap that never materialised. There were some other bidders for a grid slot, including the Stefan GP team that never existed. ProDrive had an attempt to get in a little bit before that, but they couldn't because they were going to be using customer McLarens, which was illegal, and the USF1 team, which was... yeah. Now, though, there is a budget cap, as Red Bull recently found out, so that is going to be there to entice new teams in, knowing that they're not going to have to spend $500 million or so to be competitive. But there is one other problem: the actual entry fee. When Jordan and teams like that came into Formula 1 in the early 1990s, the entry fee was $100,000. Adjusted for inflation, that's about $212,000 according to the website I use, which, for reference, has a cumulative inflation rate of 115% there or thereabouts. As we've seen with Andretti, and I can't believe I've got to page 2 of this script without mentioning him, he's going to have to hand over 100 times that just to get the entry fee signed off. I know F1 is expensive in 2023, but f*** me. And on top of this, as I've just seen from Autosport, someone like Andretti will also have to hand over a $25,000 non-refundable admin fee for just telling the FIA they're interested. Why can't it be like those over 50 life insurance adverts where they just give you a free pen just for calling up? Or, I don't know, maybe some John Lewis vouchers or something. And if it all goes through and everything's hunky-dory and it's all signed off and approved, the team that expresses interest will get on the grid for 2025. So we're looking at a 2-year turnaround between expressing interest, getting it signed off, getting it approved, then building the car, setting up the actual team and getting sponsors and engine deals and stuff like that, and development and whatever needs to go into building a Formula 1 car, which I don't think that's enough time. Because as Sulayem said in the press conference at the recent Monte Carlo rally, expressing interest and going through the actual process of applying isn't a guarantee of getting on the grid. I say that because of the whole Nissan Longboy scenario back in 2015 at Le Mans. Nissan fluffed it big time. The hybrid system didn't work as intended and it was underpowered and slow, and it needed another year's worth of development to get it to where it needed to be. But once they put in that year's worth of development, they would have had a 2015 car in 2016, when Porsche, Audi and Toyota would have made their own gains, so really Nissan needed 2 years worth of development to get it to where it should have been. Now motorsport isn't going to stop and allow you to catch up, and because there are budget caps in Formula 1 now, that scenario in Formula 1 can't happen. You can't just spend your way out of the problem, no matter how much money you've got. So you'll have a new team being like Haas were in 2021, and some miracle hack that they've created for, I don't know, €5,000 or whatever, is going to be their only hope of getting up the grid. So really, shouldn't these new teams be coming in 2026, when the new engine regulations come in so that everyone is on the same part of the reset button? That's when Audi are coming in, and as we've been seeing in the news recently, Ford with Red Bull. And I wonder if we'll see the new engine loophole concerns get expressed by the guys at Mercedes, Renault and Ferrari in the next, I don't know, week? So you're probably wondering, is there some sort of hoop that they need to jump through? Oh yes, there's several of them. They're more checkboxes than hoops that need jumping through, but they go thusly. Number 1 is the old what can you bring to the table question. A new engine manufacturer, fans from a country that isn't particularly an F1 country, commercial backing, and so on. It seems that the Andretti Cadillac thing has now ticked this box, but the other teams are still worried about the prize money dilution as a result. Number 2. They need to prove they've got the money, the technical know-how, and the resources as well as experience. So I'm guessing so that they avoid a repeat of the likes of Lola in 1997 and ensure that the grid is competitive. Okay, someone has to qualify last, but finishing bottom of the timing sheets by a couple of tenths versus 2 seconds will make all the difference. The days of Minardi and those guys being 4 seconds off the pace. Nobody wants to see that today. Otherwise, what's the point in them being there? At least from the FIA and commercial rights point of view. And I guess the fans as well. Do you want to see 2 cars finishing last every single race, or in qualifying finishing last 3 seconds off the pace, or maybe nearly a second off the next car? You don't, do you? And number 3, how are you going to help the FIA and Formula 1 achieve this whole carbon neutral thing by 2030? By farting into a jam jar? I don't know. This is on top of other bits and pieces as well. It's a bit like applying for a tender to supply stuff for a government contract or a council contract or whatever it might be. So this is going to involve a folder thicker than 3 phone books and the best damn PowerPoint you've ever seen. And obviously the first person going to jump at this will be Andretti and Cadillac, who have been trying for some time to get onto the grid, but still met by resistance. While the FIA is now quite open to them joining, as already mentioned, the teams are less enthusiastic. People keep saying it's Toto, and making it sound like it's only Toto, but it's all of them. Except Alpine, but that was only because until they said Cadillac were on board, Renault was going to be supplying them with engines. The other could be Porsche. Another factory team on the grid would be pretty cool, and Porsche has already got that deal with Red Bull fall through. And there were rumours of them buying Williams, but with Porsche having its hypercar program, will it want to split things between the two? But that said, Ferrari has got a hypercar and Formula 1 project, so I don't know. Another manufacturer on the grid, who knows? It would be cool. The other is this Pantera, whatever it's called thing coming out of Asia. Hopefully they too can walk their way onto the grid. Now a privateer on the grid would be pretty cool, but we can't kid ourselves anymore. The days of privateers like Eddie Jordan and Ken Tyrrell are on a boat that has long since sailed. Hard to think that Eddie Jordan spent $12 million in that 1991 season for 5th in the Constructors, which is $25.7 million when adjusted for inflation. Still small change though, in this modern world. Either way, some growth, even if small, will probably benefit Formula 1. More cars on the grid is usually a good thing, but unlike in the good old days, they're going to have to be more competitive than they have been. 24 cars is probably the sweet spot too, but I'll allow you to fight about that in the comments. So anyway, this has been a thing that's happened, and this has been my opinions on the thing. If this thing has made you think things about the thing, then click the like button thing. And if you want to see more things from this channel, click the subscribe button thing and click the bell thing so you never miss out on anything that I do around here. Massive thanks, as always, to the New Look Patreon list, and if you want to help out with the image buying and stuff like that, then there is a link under the video to that, along with links to Discord and also our socials. Or the super thanks if you just want to do a one-off donation to make this coffee cup magically refill itself. Until next time, I've been AdmiralLaWind, have a great day wherever you are, and I'll see you all again soon for another video. Goodbye.